It's another launch day here at Microcenter. Here at the studio at Microcenter, we're going to build another PC. And at the core of this build is going to be this brand new, very gorgeous looking AMD Radeon RX 9060 XT. Now this is the XFX Swift variant, and this is a really nice looking white card that we got. I'm actually really excited to test this out. And this is the 16 gigabyte version because there is an 8 and a 16 gigabyte version of this card, which means you get your budget option at 8 gigabytes, or you get the option with the VRAM that you need for 1440 and maybe even 4K gaming. But everything you see on the table here actually comes in at around $1,500 at the time of filming the video. So that means you can get 16 gigabytes of VRAM and this killer looking PC that we're about to build for about $1,500. And I wanted to go with the theme because the GPU obviously has a very nice white, almost cream look to it. So I wanted to make sort of a white and black accent build. So pairing off with our GPU, I actually went with one of our bundles, and this is the AMD Ryzen 5 7600X3D CPU. That's that Microcenter exclusive, so you can only get this at your local Microcenter. But in terms of gaming performance, this is still going to do you pretty well. Remember, you can always upgrade to an AM5 CPU if you want to go to a 9800 X3D down the line, or whatever else they might have down the line, because again, AM5 is supported until 2027. You can always make that upgrade. But getting into PC gaming and getting what I'm going to call is more than a mid-range build, to be perfectly honest. I think this is going to be a really, really good build, and the CPU is not going to hold you back. So 7600 X3D, that's going to be 6 cores, 12 threads, and I'm pairing that off with this very nice looking motherboard. This is an Asus ROG Strix B650A gaming Wi-Fi, and this is going to be black with silver and white accents, so you can kind of see that theme coming together here. For the memory, I went with a 32 gigabyte kit, which comes with the bundle, so that means you get 32 gigabytes of memory, this awesome CPU, and this awesome motherboard as well. And the price on this bundle is actually pretty good. Building off of that bundle, I also went with a single tower cooler because the 7600 X3D is actually not going to run that hot. So this Hyper 212 is going to keep it nice and cold. I like air coolers, especially single tower, for low wattage CPUs, so this is going to work perfectly fine, and actually it's going to make our build pretty easy. I really didn't want to deal with an AIO for this one, even though putting an AIO, it's not that hard, but this is a little bit easier. Now for power, I went with a 750 watt power supply from Corsair. This is the RM750. Now, again, white, black accents, it's all coming together. All of this plus a 1 terabyte SSD. This is the SN850X from Western Digital Black. This is a 1 terabyte SSD, so that's enough space for your operating system for a bunch of games, but it will get cramped pretty quick if you download a lot of games, and a lot of those big chunky AAA games. Those titles are actually getting pretty spacious, so 2 terabytes might be the way to go down the line, but you can always add that really easily to this Asus motherboard. For the case, I'm actually really excited about this one. This one is from Lian Li. This is the CG237, and this has a very nice curved glass panel here. So has the fans already built in. You can see the 2 intake, you can see the 1 outtake here, and I always like to get a case that has the fans already included, because adding those fans while you're doing the build is kind of a pain. I know that this is already in there, it's already routed, so that's kind of already out of the way. And they're going to look pretty good too. This paired off with the fan that's going to be on the Hyper 212, plus this nice GPU in there, this is going to look great. So why don't we start opening up some boxes? Well, let's get into the build. All right, so I have everything laid out here on the desk with my motherboard on the box. That's really the best place to start, is putting the motherboard right on the box. And I'm going to get the CPU installed. So 7600 X3D, we have them here at Microcenter, and definitely check microcenter.com for inventory, because we do have plenty right now, but it is a limited time only sort of deal. Everything's laid out here, and we're just going to install that CPU right away. And this is going to be a real easy build today. I like simple air-cooled builds like this. They're very, very easy to put together, very quick. Like I said before, AIOs are easy to deal with, but they can be a little time consuming depending on the prep that you have to do for it. You know, if you have to put the fans on there, if you have to deal with sort of an octopus of cables that comes out of the pump. That's always a thing that happens there. So, depending on the complexity of the AIO that you choose, it will add a little bit of time to your build, but this one's gonna be very, very quick. Now I'm using my iFixit screwdriver. I like this screwdriver a lot, actually. And we just got back from Santa Clara recently, installing my SSD, and we opened a new microcenter at the Santa Clara location. It's finally open. Grand opening was awesome. And we actually had a special guest there. iFixit came by because their offices are not too far. So we actually shot a video together, a PC build for them to use as a video editing PC. And they went all out for that one. That was a lot of fun meeting them and talking about just all kinds of stuff. We were nerding out in the store. The heatsink here that goes on the SSD has a thermal pad that has a cover. And I almost put it on without taking the cover off. And finding the screw holes for these heatsink, there we go. It can be a little bit of a challenge sometimes, so you really just gotta take a second to line it up, especially because I feel the stickiness of the thermal pad kind of holding it in place already. There we go, that's all set. And now we're gonna move on to our memory. By the way, if you've never installed memory before, especially if you're just doing dual channel, don't know which slots to do, most motherboards are gonna have this handy little diagram right here. So it says DIMM A1, A2, B1, B2. That's your 4 slots there. And there's a little diagram down here that shows which slots are the priority slots for dual channel memory. So that's gonna be your A2, which is right here, and your B2 right there. And that's it. It is that easy. And then they just go right in, and you just slot it in and press down on both sides, some pressure. You always double check that this clicked in all the way. That's actually messed me up before where I go to boot. This actually wasn't inserted all the way, but it looked like it was from this angle because I'm so tall. So it wasn't posting right, and then I go and I check it in. I literally just push it in and then it's fine. So always just make sure that this is making full contact. Just like that. And, oh, there it is. See, there's that extra click. And that's why we do it on the cardboard box, because you see that pressure that I'm putting there? All of those pins on the back of the motherboard, well, you don't want to put pressure on that. You don't want to break anything. Now, if you've already built PCs, then, well, you know all of this already. So I'm going to talk about the 9060 XT, because this is actually kind of exciting. We now have another brand new GPU from AMD. And just like the 9070 and 9070 XT, which were actually really phenomenal GPUs. I mean, first and foremost, the launch of that was incredible. That was like a record for how many people came to a GPU launch at Microcenter. At every single store, so many of you came out for that GPU, which I think bodes really well for how in demand a GPU of that performance and price, there's a lot of demand for that. So clearly AMD has heard you, and they have more offerings with the 9060 XT. So again, they have that 8GB variant, they have that 16GB variant, so that's gonna get your budget gamers at the 8GB range. So 8GB, I mean, really for 1080p, right? I mean, you're gonna be pushing your luck with 1440 4K, maybe, but probably not. 8GB really 1080, and 16GB, well, that's the sweet spot, because that's gonna get you 1440, no problem. I think in some cases 4K, because when I tried out the 9070 XT with some games at 4K, I was getting some pretty good performance there. So now I got the mounting brackets off because I'm gonna put the Hyper 212 on here. I'm actually gonna install this first, and then I'm gonna put everything into the case. And we're a couple of days out from launch, so I'm gonna get this PC up and running, and then we're going to see if maybe we can get a game or two running. Kind of depends on the driver situation. Sometimes we don't always get drivers before launch, which is why we don't always post performance before launch, just because we don't have access to that information just yet. But let's give it a shot, and let's just kind of see what happens right out the gate. Now this is the part where I always double and triple check the manual, because every cooler is just a little bit different. I'm like 90% sure that these are the brackets for AM5. So when you think about the debate of 8GB versus 16GB of VRAM for your GPUs, right? I think 8GB still has a place in this world. I think that there are still, frankly, a lot of gamers who are still gaming at 8GB, and there's a lot of gamers who are playing games that frankly will run just fine. I mean, 1080p, I'm talking about your Minecrafts, your Terrarias, your Dota 2s, like your, oh my God, League of Legends, like all of these games that like frankly just aren't graphically intensive, that you can game just fine on some, you know, lower end hardware. Oh, there we go. I had the wrong brackets. It was the longer ones. All right, so I've got my brackets here. So with this cooler, you just have to attach these brackets here first, and then it's just gonna go straight into the mounting hardware. There's already a back plate on there. Now, back on to Santa Clara, that was a really good time. It was really nice meeting everyone. I met a lot of people that watch this channel, actually. That surprised me the most. You know who you are. It was really nice to meet you. Really great deals that were going on for a grand opening at Santa Clara, so that was a great time. This little sticker, always take it off. Double check, triple check, quadruple check. I like doing this on video because there's proof that I am taking it off. And if your CPU seems like it's running way too hot, way hotter than it should be, take off your cooler, check to make sure that the sticker is off, check to make sure that it's making good contact on your CPU and that there's thermal paste. I'm just gonna go for a nice big blob. Whoa, that shot right out. Okay, I didn't mean to put that much. That is a little bit more than I would like, but it's okay. All right, so now that this is all set, I pulled a little whoopsie and I put one the wrong way. I was just about to stick this right on. These videos that we do here, right? Like all of these builds, this is me talking to our cameraman right now, who's right there. And this is kind of Rachel Ray style, where I'm sort of just here kind of talking my way through this while simultaneously building. And I have to say, it's actually kind of hard to talk while doing all of this. Having the ability to sort of multitask your way through building a PC while also just trying to have a conversation. I'll tell you this much, my first time building a PC, I dropped a screw on the motherboard. I think it was like one of the PCIe screws, and I was freaking out. I really thought that like I would have caused a lot of damage to the motherboard and that everything was gonna not work. And what I've learned after building as many PCs as I've built on this channel, PC parts are more resilient than you think. Now, that's not a free pass to just start, you know, being destructive, but they are more resilient than you think they are. So, you know, don't panic if something kind of goes wrong. As long as you didn't drop water on it, and as long as you didn't, you know, break off a capacitor or something, odds are it's going to be okay. But do double and triple check that you didn't maybe crack a trace or damage anything really bad. But dropping a PCIe screw on your motherboard, not as bad as you would think. That's actually, you'll live. You know, your PC will live. You'll be all right there. So I have our single fan here. I like single tower coolers for CPUs like this. You know, 7600 X3D. What is that, 65 watts? It runs pretty cool. You know, it's only 6 cores. I went with this one specifically to sort of prove a point, because if you look at all of these Steam hardware surveys, you'll see that the #1 most average CPU in terms of core count is 6 cores. It is a lot of 6-core CPUs out there. I kind of just wanted to showcase that a 6-core still has a place in this world. And to be perfectly frank, a 7600 X3D, very similar in performance to a 7800 X3D, which frankly was the king of gaming CPUs until very recently when the 9800 X3D came out. So sure, you're missing out on maybe the way that they changed the Vcache layout with the 9800 X3D, with the 7600 X3D, but at the end of the day, you're still gonna get a really solid PC with really solid gaming performance. So don't be afraid to look at what happened in the 7000 series of Ryzen CPUs. Don't hyper-focus on 9000 series, especially if the 7000 series CPUs are in your budget. We do have really good bundle deals on this, so keep an eye out for that. All right, just gonna get this fan right on here, and I promise it's going the right direction. I'm gonna make sure that it's like somewhat level there. Now for the cables, I'm going to plug these in now. Maybe I can move it up. All right, so we have our RGB header over here. I'll make this look a little bit neater after I get this in the case. Right now, I just want to get this out of the way. That's everything set for the motherboard. We are all good to go into the case. And that was pretty easy. So here's our CG237. I took the top and the back off. The back, there's just one screw that keeps it in place, pries right off. Top actually pries off really easily. And then there is one single screw that keeps this entire glass panel on there. So this slips on like so. And there's some footies in there that you just sort of match it up to. I really like these curved glass panels. I think these look really nice. It still has the plastic on it, so it's not gonna look as nice right now, but once we're done with it, it's gonna look real good. Parts boxes are usually in the slot for the hard drive right over here. Let me not drop my brand new GPU while I'm shaking the table. But you've got options for a single 3.5-inch hard drive. You also have 2 slots here for 2.5-inch SSDs if you want to add those as well. Plenty of space for your power supply, and you can obviously put fans right here on the bottom very easily. So this looks to be a removable shroud here. And then we have our 2 intake, our 1 exhaust. These look to be 140 millimeters. Yeah, cool. That's gonna do us just fine, to be perfectly frank. In terms of airflow, that's gonna be pretty good. I could add a couple of more exhaust fans, but I'm really not worried about heat for this build. The 7600 X3D paired with this RX 9060 XT, I think it's gonna be perfectly fine in terms of thermal performance. You could always put more fans. It'll always run cooler, but for now, I think it's perfectly okay, especially for the budget that we're working with here. And nice little infinity mirrors here on the fans as well. So that's gonna look really good. Now, with some of the other Lianli cases, they do come with a parts box. This one is just little baggies with screws. You've got your gaskets here for your hard drives that you wanna mount. You've got extra little screws so you can mount your radiators if you want. See some standoff risers here, which I don't think we need. It looks like all of our risers for our motherboard are already pre-installed, so that's always good. Sometimes that's something you always kind of have to look out for, if those risers are already installed or not. But it looks like they are all set. Then obviously this case will work with ATX, MATX, ITX, they'll all fit in there. You can move these risers around very easily, and it comes with extras. Got all of our screws. Cool, let's get this guy in here. Now I like to hold it by the VRMs, not really by the cooler. I'm also holding it by the heat sink here. And this just sort of slides right in under the fan, fits right there. Yeah, this case is roomy. This is a very, very roomy case. It's about as roomy as the O11 Vision. Now I like this Fantic screwdriver. You know, it's easy, kind of saves on my wrist. I like this one because it doesn't over tighten on the screws. You can't really over torque it. If you put too much torque, you could damage the motherboard. So that's obviously something that you want to be careful with. Here's the part of the video where I turn things over to you. What do you think about what's going on with the GPU market these days? I mean, obviously, tons of options from Team Red, Team Green, Team Blue. It's really interesting what's going on in the GPU market. I don't know, it's a real interesting time to be a gamer, and there's so many different options out there, which is really what it's all about, right? Like, that's what PC gaming is all about. It's just having those options and sort of that customization and that control over just everything. I mean, 9060 XT, it's looking pretty promising, and you're definitely getting a lot of options. I dropped another screw. They're giving you a lot of options with those 8 gig and 16 gig options, but what do you think? Is that enough? I mean, what would you like to see? Do you want more VRAM? Do you want 24 gigs? 32 gigs? And obviously there's a lot. Oh, I dropped it again. You know, everything going on in the pro GPU market in terms of AI and everything there. A lot of VRAM, especially with a lot of the announcements coming out of Computex, but at least on the gaming side, you know, I don't know. What are your thoughts? Where do you think there could be improvements? Where do you think the market is heading for gamers over the next few years? Motherboard's in, and again, that's why I like air-cooled builds, personally. They're just way quicker. They are just so much faster. So when I was in Santa Clara, I was talking to some of our service techs at the Knowledge Bar, and we were talking about turntables for builds. One of our service techs who did our build for the iFixit video, his name is Brendan. He's a cool guy. He was showing me his turntable for builds, and he's like, oh yeah, this thing's gigantic, it's great. It was like maybe 24 or 30 inches. Brendan, this is my turntable here in the studio. This thing is absolutely gigantic, but look at how smooth this is. This is the one I was telling you to look up. And I'll let our service managers know that this is the one that I'm working with, because look at how smooth that is. You could fit anything on here. And a turntable makes your life so much easier when it comes to building. And I'm gonna show you why. On the back side here, we have all of our case cables. Actually, case cables are easier than they used to be. When you're going with a white build, and you really wanna go for a white build, get the white case, get the white power supply. It's gonna have all the white cables that you want. You can see the power supply also has the white cables. These accents and these details, I mean, that's really what's gonna make your build look stellar, stand out. You gotta have that sort of attention to detail. So obviously it seems obvious, right? You know, you wanna make a white build, get white parts, yes, but you know, do make sure that they have the right colored cables, because sometimes some white cases on the budget end don't have the white cables. So, you know, that's something that's gonna stick out like a sore thumb. Unified front panel, always love to see it. We have our front USB-C, we have our front USB 3.0 header, and then we have our HD audio, easy peasy. Down here, it looks like we have all of our fan cables wired together here. I think they're all just daisy chained into one another. Yep, they're all daisy chained together. So that means all I have to do is put one fan header and one LED header, which I'll put on the bottom of the motherboard. And that's gonna take care of all three of the fans. So again, that's why I like these cases with the pre-installed fans. This kind of cable makes my life easier. You just look for the missing pin, you match it up, goes right in. USB-C cables, they're bi-directional. You can put them either way. The header for this is not. It actually only goes in one way. There we go. So then I'm gonna take that, pull that back so it looks kind of nice. USB 3.0, I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna run it over here, right over here. There's a little notch that you have to match up, and it just slips right in. So that's another real easy one. HD audio actually ends up running over on this side here. So this one usually comes down and over. Flip around for dramatic effect, look for that missing pin, match it up. There you go. There's usually a fan header and an LED header at the bottom of the case. So I'm just gonna put these up here. Yep, fan header right here. And the LED RGB header, it's right over here. And it's usually, the base of it is usually white. Motherboard's gonna be 24 pin right up there. Just gonna plug that right in. And power cables, also pretty easy. Now for this one, this is an 8-pin and a 4-pin on the EPS. So you've got to take one of these 4 pins, and there's these little prongs in here to sort of pry it apart. Sometimes you can just do this. There we go. And it just peels apart and you get what you need. So usually I recommend putting the power supply cables first before you put the cooler, especially if it's a modular power supply. But in this case, cooler's so small, it's actually pretty easy to maneuver around. And the position of this channel for the cables, this is nice and central, which is kind of where I like it, because everything seems to sort of run this way anyway. So that makes life way easier. So these should all just run straight down. Everything should just run straight down at this point. If you have a lot of fans, fan controllers, AIOs with other cables coming through, if you have a lot of SATA cables going on in there, if you have a lot going on under the hood, then yeah, I highly recommend spending the extra time cable managing. Speaking of simple, one thing I really like about this 9060 XT, this has one 8-pin connector. Now we're talking simple. This makes my life so easy. Just gonna take off 2 slots from our PCIe support. It's kind of in the way here. I'm gonna take this one out. cool. Look at that. So there's this little stand here on the bottom. I'm just going to adjust, and let's see if I have enough height to get up there. Oh, perfect. They made it long enough so it's going to reach. That's great. So now it has a little support in the back, so you don't have to worry about GPU sag. Although, to be perfectly frank, I wouldn't worry about GPU sag with this specific GPU. This is pretty lightweight, so it's going to look pretty okay. Cool, there we go. And now we just have our GPU power, which is just one little 8-pin. It's going to give you more than enough juice to keep this guy running. Just need to clip it together. Come on, buddy. Nice. And there it is. Yeah, the power supply had 2 daisy-chained 8-pin cables, so they didn't have just a regular 8-pin, but that's okay. Let's be a little silly. Why don't we close this up and let's see if it posts. I'm going to be bold. I'm going to assume that it's going to post just fine. Not bad. Not bad at all. I'm even going to go the extra mile. Beautiful. All right, I cleaned up a little bit, and now let's get this guy to boot. I just use a portable monitor for this part. It's just easier. So then I can just do it all right here. And look at that. Ooh, that looks nice. Look at that RGB strip on the bottom. Now, this 9060 XT that I'm using, this actually only has 1 HDMI port and 2 display ports. So that's something to keep in mind. Let's give it a minute. Yep, green light, looking good. There it is. Oh, I just can't see. Yes. Reset that TPM. New CPU installed. All right, everything's there. Everything's looking good. I like this portable monitor. Oh, there we go. BIOS menu. So that about wraps it up for this build. I got everything set up. I got Windows installed. This guy is good to go, but no drivers. So unfortunately, we're gonna have to wait until after release of the 9060 XT so we can take it for a test drive. I have this 9060 XT already set up in this system. We already have our RX 9070 and RX 9070 XT. So that means we could take all 3 of these and maybe we can just do a live demo, play a couple of different games and see how each one performs so you can decide which one is the right GPU for you. But remember, stop on by your local microcenter because you can get your hands on an AMD Radeon RX 9060 XT GPU. So make sure you stop on by your local microcenter. And if you don't have a microcenter near you, then be sure to comment hashtag I want a microcenter near me.